back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is the Yankee and the Brit Thursday night football pregame show. And we are going to run through what happened last week before we get to tonight's game. Maddie, how about those Vikings, man? How about those Vikings? Because I was going to go grab a clip. I didn't have time, but I was going to go grab a clip of when I said last week, I really think the Vikings can win this game. Maddie gave this shit face. He gave this crazy shit face to me. And I wish I had time to go pull that because I would just like to repeatedly play that over and over. And you go, and not, don't quote me. I don't think it's an exact quote, but you go, that's too many points, but I don't think the Vikings can win. You're like, San Francisco, I'll take the Vikings and the points with San Francisco winning, and gave me a shit face.
Yeah, that's where I was at with it. I don't feel like I totally discounted your ability to win. Because I said at the start, I was like, that's way too many points for the 49ers over the Vikings. The Vikings are much better than that. But also, it was surprising. The most surprising thing is that I
wasn't surprised.
The Vikings managed to get away from the 49ers without Kirk Cousins being sacked. That's the biggest stat of the day.
I mean, I might be exaggerating this, but I don't think that the 49ers have beat the Vikings since like 2016 or some shit. Or 2000 or something like that.
You guys like a bogey team for the 49ers. I mean, maybe it's just Kyle Shanahan gets so starstruck and star-crossed loved by his quarterback fancy for Kirk Cousins. Maybe that's it every time. He needs to make sure that Kirk Cousins continues to look good. Maybe that's what it is.
You mean the guy who's not, but should be in the talks for MVP right now?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, I said it in our chat a lot of the time. Kirk Cousins is playing the best football in the NFC right now. A quarterback in the NFC right now, and probably
you should switch that last letter from C to L.
Probably in the NFL as well is what I was thinking, because I think the AFC you have all the big name quarterbacks, but who's actually stamping down their authority as the best quarterback? Because obviously you have Tua, but we're going to move on to the Dolphins game. They lose another big game, so they've lost against the Bills and they've lost against the Eagles as well. So Kirk Cousins probably is playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. Definitely the best in the NFC.
I said in I guess you can call them arguments because it's on Facebook and people are fucking ridiculous. So I said in an argument yesterday on one of the Facebook groups, I said something like, you guys can be mad and don't have to like it, but right now the best two quarterbacks in the NFL are Tua and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, obviously Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
But he's not playing like it right now. So
he's not playing like it.
So if we're talking like hierarchy of like career, yes, it's always going to be Mahomes. But if we're talking this season right now, he might not even be top 5.
Well, I mean, he did just throw for 424 yards, 1 touchdown in a win over the Chargers. I mean, like, it depends because you have to marry up.
Is that like, a high school team?
You have to marry up like quality of wide receiver that you're throwing to as well. Like, that's got to come into it at some point. Kirk Cousins is thrown to the best wide receiver in the league.
Well, not the last couple of weeks, and
yeah.
I was talking about last year. Nobody was saying that shit about him last year. True. Like, oh, he doesn't have the quality of receivers and he's got the same receivers as last. So I don't know. I'm not shitting on Mahomes. True. I'm just saying he's not playing like Mahomes-esque. But if you remember last year, there was a stretch the Chiefs did not look very Chief-like either.
Yes, where the lovers of the Chiefs say that they're practicing. But for later on, I'm not sure he's right. I mean, they put in a few funky plays, but they put in a few funky plays anyway. So I don't think
the Chiefs are.
I'm not sure that's it.
The Chiefs are 3 missed calls and a picked up flag away from losing to the Vikings too.
Yeah. So going into this game, the Vikings are probably, in terms of record, one of the most underrated team in the NFL.
We're the best shitty team in the NFL right now.
you're no longer a shitty team in the NFL because you're one game behind 500 and you've just beat the 49ers. So
Doesn't
now
being
people will
under
be paying
500
attention.
doesn't being under 500 kind of make you a shitty team though?
Not if you actually know what you're fucking talking about. Like, if you look at the stretch that you guys had and then compare that to and see how close the games are. Like we said it. We said it. This at the start of the season, this Vikings team could have a worse record than next year, but be a better team than going forward.
Bill Parcells
Addison is a monster.
Oh, Bill Parcells once said, "You are what your record is," but
yeah,
people can say what they want and they can hate, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, best trio in the NFL.
Yeah, so you said this in one of our chats, and I was trying to think of better ones, and I guess it comes down to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I guess it comes
both of
down
our
to
receivers are better than Smith.
I agree.
Justin Jefferson's better than AJ Brown, and you really going to take Goddard over Hawkinson?
No. I agree.
Well, I was rhetorical. I wasn't really questioning you. I was more the rhetorical. Yeah. Would you really?
I did a fucking list of them, and I left it in my notebook, which is in a bag in a different hotel. But yeah, you also have, I guess you have the Dolphins where you have, when they're healthy, you have the Dolphins. So Tua, Jalen Waddle, tight end. Is Gesicki still their tight end? No, he's in New England.
If you got to think about it, you can just stop that conversation.
Ache, but then you can have the running back, can't you? So then you can have Ache, I guess. And
so let me ask, and this who are you taking, JJ or Tyreek Hill?
That's a JJ. I feel like JJ gives you
no wrong answer. I'm just
a plethora of options. I feel like JJ gives you more of a plethora of options, but Tyreek Hill just has something that nobody else has in terms of that speed. I'm probably if I'm building an offense, I'm probably taking JJ right now.
Addison or Waddle?
Just due to amount that I've seen of them, it's got to be Waddle because I've seen it over a longer period of time.
Just for me, because of contract and age, I go Addison. But so I don't think you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, so, and then after that, you can't even go like Hawkinson and they're the best pass catching trio in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. Like the Vikings are a team to watch, and most important, we know their offense is good. Also, I like Powell, the guy that you were raving about last week. So I picked him up in fantasy. He's electric, man. He looks great.
I didn't know. I know he's been in the league a couple of years. Didn't know who the fuck he was till he hit the Vikings this summer, right? And I watched him in preseason, and I said, "This dude's got a rocket up his ass. Like he is fast."
Yeah.
And so I was very interested to see him play more.
Yeah, he looks like a guy. He looks like a guy that he jumps off the screen when he's got the ball. So the Vikings are good. We knew that offensively, like the run game, Cam Akers looked pretty good.
He's going to take over now that Madison's injured. Like, you know me, I put on a cape for Alexander Madison because I'm friends with his dad on Facebook and we talk on Facebook. I'm not like hanging out, calling him friends or anything. And I got to interview Alexander for Overtime Hustling once. So, like, I got a cape that I will throw on for Alexander Madison, but I think it's the right move. I think Cam Akers looks more explosive. He's quicker. And I feel like if you go back and it's different this year, Madison's not reading the right hole.
Yeah, I feel that the early in-season fumble problems, because let's just put this, everybody remember this as well. The Vikings had a massive fumble issue for the first 3 games of the season. And we said, if the Vikings can fix the fumbles, then they're good. They're ready to go. And they haven't fumbled for the past 2 weeks, so they look like they've got that fixed.
We,
But I
we
feel
need
like
to change the
Madison,
rule that if it gets ripped out of the receiver's hands, it's a fumble. That's got to stop being an interception. That one where Addison gets it ripped right out of his hands
Yep.
on the third play of the game. That happened to Kirk with
That's
KJ
harsh on Kirk.
Osborne on the goal line too before. That is not, I get it's an interception, but that is not the quarterback's fault.
Yeah, Kirk also got lucky that Addison ripped it out of the wide receiver's hands on that touchdown. The cornerback's hands, sorry, on that touchdown where Kirk throws it in behind him, like basically straight into the chest of the cornerback.
I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't say lucky because there was so little time left. Kirk was just trying to make a play on the end of the half. So, that interception wouldn't have killed the Vikings. So, if you're going to throw an interception, that's where I want you to throw it. Take a chance. And,
yes, but
I guess what I'm saying, and you'll know this as a Dak Prescott fan, not all interceptions are created equal.
Exactly. Dak's 15... What was it? 15 interceptions last year, leading.
It was only 14, I think, but yeah.
14. There's 7 of those ricochet off a wide receiver's hands directly up into the air and straight into the hands of a cornerback. So they're not all interceptions are equal. A lot of Daks aren't, because a lot of Daks are at the fucking worst times they could possibly be in games, which is an issue. But
the Vikings need to figure out how to close in the red zone, or that game would have been a blowout if they could figure out how to close. They'd have won by 20 some points if they could close that in the red zone.
Yeah, I think I texted you in the first half saying there's so many points left on the board that what the fuck, like they're gonna kick themselves if the 49ers get this going.
I didn't see anybody's messages till after the game because my phone literally quit working. My iPhone just quit working and was done. And so I had to wait like 36 hours for a new one to get delivered to me. So it was a very weird time. I had to go on my laptop and start reading messages in the fucking, which I haven't done in years. I literally was like answering shit very short because I actually had to type it instead of voice text it. It was weird.
So the 49ers have lost 2 games in a row, which is a bit of a worry for them, I guess. Losing 2 in a row against 2 very good teams, with the Browns defense as well. And the Vikings defense, by the way, the Vikings defense looked fucking unbelievable.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. Like, it didn't look like the Vikings. That was the part of the game that played massively up for the night.
Do you think that's a blip or a trend? Do you think Brian Flores' system is finally everybody's understanding it? Or do you think the Vikings just had one blip in the season of a really good defense?
No, because I think you saw glimpses of it last week and the week before as well, where it feels like they're faster. Like watching them on TV, they feel faster, and that they're running to the that's the problem with the Vikings defense for the past couple of seasons. It's felt slow, like really slow, but they felt a little faster last week, and they were flying to the ball this week.
So here's a crazy stat: the Vikings have blitzed more in the first 6 games than any team has since 2006.
Yeah, that was quite noticeable yesterday. Do you think the league is do you think the league is maybe catching up to Brock Purdy? Obviously his left tackle Trent Williams was out for that game, and any quarterback who's used to having an amazing left tackle to then be without your left tackle is horrible. So he gets a pass somewhat for that. But do you think the league is catching up with Brock Purdy? Because remember, he hasn't played a full season yet. He hasn't played a full season's worth of regular season games.
No, and to be fair, I think it's a fair question, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because even when they lost to the Browns, and I know that he didn't have the greatest stat line, he got them in position to win the game. They kicked that field goal. We're not even having this conversation. Against the Vikings, he went 21 for 30, 272, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And the interceptions were bad. But again, you're at a place where Brock Purdy's got to make a play. And I said this to you sometime this week. I don't think he's used to playing from behind. And you said that's a problem, and I agree. But I think it's also something you got to learn. And until this kid learns it, what are you going to do, right? So he's got to learn when to eat a play and just toss it into the stands, not every, and live to fight another down. But I don't know if they so much caught up to him. I just think he's young.
Yeah, I think there is an element of the league catching up to the 49ers. The 49ers offense being able you have the 49ers offense just a bit more on tape, so you can catch up to it. And the 49ers, they're very scheme over they're very scheme based. So if you take out integral parts of that scheme, so Debo and Trent Williams, for example, Debo is like the unicorn of that offense that makes everybody else kind of open because of the different ways you can use Debo. Christian McCaffrey, although he played every down on offense last week, he didn't look fully fit. I was pretty amazed that he played every down last week. They didn't have him on some sort of snap count, to be honest.
When I was watching the replay of that game, I was thinking to myself the same thing. Like, is it his injury? Or is it because the Vikings are in the backfield the whole fucking game? Like, the pressure up the middle is what killed that run game. And that's something the Vikings have kind of lacked. And I really like the way the Vikings scheme pressure. But I think as a running back, how the fuck do you get going when you don't even have 2 yards to pick a hole before somebody's at you? And he still shook some of those tackles and picked up 3 yards on plays that should have been a 3-yard loss. And I think, yes, he had horrible. I think he went 15 for 45, but that could have been way worse if it wasn't Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. And I also think this sentence both damns and saves Brock Purdy for the past 2 weeks of you can't judge a player's entire game by the last play of the game. So against the Browns, he threw for 125 yards, which just simply not good enough. But he does put an excellent drive together at the end to get them within field goal range and to take the kick. And they missed the kick. But if that happened earlier on in the game, you wouldn't say, oh, yeah, that's the reason that they lost. But then in the same vein, you can't then say because he throws an interception whilst they're trying to get down the pitch with, what was it, like a minute and 15 seconds left, like somewhere around there. They have a minute and 15 seconds left. So he's trying to work down the pitch against a team where they haven't really got a lot going. He throws an interception there. You can't judge him on that either because, as you said, he throws for 230, 272
9
yards.
Incompletions. That's it. He only threw 9 incompletions the whole game.
So I don't think it's a Brock Purdy problem. I think it might be a 49ers issue entirely. But I also think we're seeing where if you see the limitations of Brock Purdy. He's never going to be able to put the 49ers team like on his back and like carry them through. I guess he kind of did against the Browns and they just fucked it.
I heard that about Tom Brady for about 4 years of his career.
I see a lot of things, especially in our group chat. Our group chat is very overreactionary, by the way, which is quite fun for us to watch. And I quite enjoyed the overreaction side of it.
It's all based on fantasy football, so everything's an overreaction.
Yeah. So it's all based on fantasy football, so everything's a crazy overreaction. I get involved with it just to kind of like stir things around and just see what's happening. And it's quite fun. But you see a lot of the stuff that people use to defend and criticize Brock Purdy is the exact same stuff that people say about Dak Prescott. But obviously, Dak Prescott gets a lot more hate than Brock Purdy does. But then Dak Prescott also costs like $40 million a year more than Brock Purdy does. And has been in the league about 8 years longer.
Well, years though. It's when Dak didn't grow that he got the hate. Yeah, Dak didn't grow, so he got the hate. When he was young, he didn't get the hate. But
So
well,
let's see.
I could talk all day
Let's
about
see
Vikings,
which
but
way
let's
Brock
talk some
goes from there.
Cleveland Browns, Indianapolis Colts. Gardner Minshew comes up. What was that? Sorry.
Let's
you
see
say?
where Purdy goes from here. Is what I was saying. He could either go amazing Tom Brady-esque style of play, or he can become Dak Prescott. Let's see.
So Gardner Minshew went off though, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 1 interception. PJ Walker only he was less than 50% for 178 and an interception. Browns figure out how to win that game, even though the internet says it was the refs who win that game. What was your take on that, Maddie?
As always, the refs need to be made full-time members of staff, as Aaron Rodgers said. But also, the Gardner Minshew has always had this kind of crazy game in him. That's why we love Gardner Minshew, right? This is why people really enjoy watching Gardner Minshew, because he's got the same thing. He's got this. Oh yeah, I could go off and score like 38 points in a game. I could go absolutely crazy, or I could look like the worst quarterback you've ever seen. And today this week he decided to score 38 points against possibly the best defense in the NFL. Very Gardner Minshew. The other fascinating part of this game is, does Deshaun Watson get to come back in to the Browns team? I've seen a few people say, oh, may as well just play with PJ Walker. I think that would be a massive mistake. One, because of Deshaun Watson's contract. Two, because even in a game where the Browns scored 39 points, he had a QBR of 26 and just an outright rating of, is that a passer rating, of 51, throwing for 178 yards and 1 interception. So let's chill out maybe a little bit on that.
Yeah, and then I read that his injury is a bruise inside of his rotator cuff on his throwing arm, and it's not even the pain, that it's that he has weakness in it sometimes. So when he took that hit, from what I read, he wanted to go back in, and Kevin Stefanski held him out. Who knows what the truth is.
Yeah,
in baseball, that's a 6-week injury for a pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, look, I don't think Deshaun Watson's all that. Like, I don't think he's. I've been on here and I've been very vocal about it. I don't think he's the same quarterback at all that you can expect him to be. I think he's pretty washed. But when you're the Browns, you're paying that money anyway. And no matter how washed you think Deshaun Watson is, a washed Deshaun Watson is better than PJ Walker. Although PJ Walker does, again, have that ability to. Well, he threw for, when he was playing for the Panthers. Do you remember when he played against Tom Brady and threw for 400 yards, or like for an absolutely crazy game, 4 touchdowns for 450 yards or something absolutely ridiculous for the Panthers, just throwing the ball to DJ Moore the entire time. So PJ Walker does have ability, but a washed Deshaun Watson is better than PJ Walker.
Yeah, I have to go back through, you guys. I don't have my record for this week because my phone died on my picks, but I know I did shitty. So if you followed me this week, my bad. This was a crazy.
I don't think anybody did particularly well.
No, this is crazy because I'll just move on to the Lions Ravens. We both picked the Lions, which I almost took the Ravens. I'm not saying that to like beat my chest, but I convinced myself the Lions were going to beat the Ravens, and the Lions got beat down by the Ravens.
This is one of those games where you sit back and you go, all right, okay, the Lions are the Lions, right? So we've been slowly convincing ourselves. I know you haven't, but I just mean the media as a whole have been slowly convincing themselves, and fans have been slowly convincing themselves that the Detroit Lions are actually a good football team, right?
Well, okay, yes, they're good. They're just not as good as everybody thinks. Is my argument.
But it's then like you trust them and you go, all right, okay, I can see it. They look good.
It happened to me this week.
Okay, I trust them. And then they become the Lions again. And then they turn back into the Lions where they just get absolutely walked. What was it? 28-0 at halftime. And it was just game over from the jump.
I mean, they're lucky to have gotten 6 points in that game. It was a bad, brutal game. They did not look like the Lions. It's a bad defense to go against, but Gibbs went 11 for 61. That's your first round pick. St. Brown was St. Brown. Jared Goff had an all right game, but he didn't find the end zone. And I know it's because you're behind, but a winning recipe is not asking your quarterback to throw 53 times.
Yes, for any quarterback, especially that's not the
yes.
way we're winning. That's not the way we're winning with Jared Goff. That's not the style of football that he plays. But also any quarterback. So people who are coming after Jared Goff has been the best thing that's happened to the Lions in the past 2 years. Like, let's remember that. Like, the Jared Goff resurgence is the only reason that anything is working in Detroit, because otherwise you would have been fleeced for your Hall of Fame quarterback Matthew Stafford and have got relatively nothing in return and be in the crapshoot of the draft and seeing what's going on. And the way that the quarterbacks are coming out of that draft, they're not looking all too great out of last year's draft. So Jared Goff, let's not jump on the back of him. And also let's not, like, a lot of people who got on the Lions bandwagon are now jumping off and they're actually attaching themselves to a Ravens bandwagon right now, which is kind of fun. But let's not just say the Lions are now a terrible football team again, because that's not true. They had a shitty game, a really bad game against a really good opponent. And something that's really interesting is Lamar Jackson going up against NFC teams is now 16-1. So teams that he doesn't regularly play against, he beats them because they don't know Lamar Jackson.
He went 21 for 27 for 357 yards and 3 touchdowns.
How much did he get on the ground? Do you know?
I'm looking right now. 9 for 36.
9 for 36, yeah. See, just...
Well, a question for the Lions, though, is Jameis Williams a bust?
I think that's a bit early in the day. He hasn't really played, but then the reason he hasn't played is because of his own behavioral problems. So
injury, and then the way he acted, and then when he has been playing, if I'm not mistaken, he's only had 2 fucking big plays in his whole career.
Yeah, but again, he's not he came off that massive injury last year, and then obviously poor conduct has led to him not playing really till now. So I think it's a bit too early for that. But yeah, the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is an absolute fucking machine, by the way. The guy is an absolute... I know the Ravens were just playing prevent offense from basically halftime. So a lot of underneath stuff for Amon-Ra St. Brown and plenty of after yard catches. But the guy's still a beast. What's the worry there is the Lions defense not being able to hang with the Ravens at all. But I do just think when teams come up against Lamar Jackson for the first time, they don't really know how to play against Lamar Jackson. And also Lamar Jackson was the best form of Lamar Jackson this weekend.
Okay, so before we move on, are you worried at all about the Lions moving forward?
In the sense of they're not the best team in the NFC, yes, but I never thought they were the best. I thought they were playing maybe the best ball in the NFC, but I knew they would slip up eventually and become the Lions at some point. So no, I still think they're going to make the playoffs.
I'll leave it on this note. It's always good coming off a loss to play the Raiders next.
Yeah, that's always nice. That's always nice for them. There's also the point of a big overreaction thing that's happening right now is, are the Ravens the best team in the NFL?
Well, no, but that's okay.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I did pick them as my Super Bowl pick at the way too early Super Bowl predictions, but I still don't think they're the best team.
Well, let's talk about some Bills, Patriots. Yeah. The Patriots pull out a 29-25 win against the Bills. Josh Allen played okay, but he was 27 for 41, 265, 2 touchdowns, and another interception. Mac Jones went for 25 for 30, 272, 2 touchdowns. That interception is probably the difference in the game because if you look down the stat lines, they are pretty identical for team stats.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you didn't play all right if you lost to a team where you were a 9-point favorite. Like as a
I just meant
quarterback,
stat
you just
wise, he
didn't
played
play
all
right.
right.
Yeah, his stats are okay, but like actually, he didn't. He didn't play all right. He again, that interception cost them the game. Like right, that interception cost them a loss, but also he didn't do enough when he was on the pitch. And this can be down to the Bills scheming. Like I do think it's time to hit restart in the Bills, not on the squad, but just on the back room, because it does seem like their plan. And I do feel sorry for Josh Allen at points here, where it seems like their plan is, oh, we're in trouble. Hopefully Josh can do something for us, rather than having a schemed plan to get them out of trouble that Josh can then work to. The plan is, oh, let's see what Josh Allen can do. And it's like, what the fuck? Why are they paying you to do anything?
Well, nobody wants to hear this, but outside of Stephon Diggs, they really don't have, and Josh Allen, they really don't have much offense whatsoever. And I think it's time for a coaching change.
Yeah, definitely. Also, it is worth remembering, before Josh Allen did cost them the game, yes, but also Bill Belichick is an excellent defensive coach who changes a lot of things. So they're a hard defense to go against just because of the way that he's able to change things up and the way that he coaches.
They take away your strength, which was Stephon Diggs, and then they had nothing else.
Yeah, they had Dalton Kincaid. That's it. And it's like, okay.
Unless you're the Chiefs or the Ravens, when your tight end is your number one receiver, there's probably a problem that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was National Wide Receivers Day, National Tight Ends Day, sorry, last week. So a lot of big tight end days across the NFL. But yes, otherwise, yes, that is a big problem.
Are you worried about the Bills at all?
Yeah, I said they weren't going to make the playoffs at the start of the year this year, and I honestly, sometimes I just look at them and just go, yeah, great. You can have those games where you play against the Dolphins and you play excellently and you beat one of the best teams in the NFL, but you can't put away the bad teams because your quarterback is prone to giving the ball away and prone to losing you a game, and you don't have the ability. If Josh Allen doesn't play a perfect game, the Bills don't have the ability to win a football game. They nearly lost to the Giants last week playing Tyrod Taylor. And look, Tyrod Taylor possibly does make them look a lot better than Daniel Jones does, but still, it's still the Giants. Like, they've been getting hammered 40-0 by the Cowboys, and their offensive line can't keep anybody standing up straight. So they've lost. But in a single season, they've lost to Zach Wilson and Mac Jones so far this year. Like,
well, when you put it like
that into perspective, just to put that into perspective. So yeah, Zach Wilson with Aaron Rodgers was meant to be playing that entire game. So Zach Wilson with limited preparation as well. So I just worry about them, and they can't put the bad teams away, and eventually the good teams. They just don't have a plan outside of, oh yeah, give Josh the ball and I'm sure he'll do something with it. And they've had a lot of injuries on defense as well, which is worth mentioning why their defensive production is low.
All right. Well, let's talk about some Chargers Chiefs. Are the Chargers dead?
Because of their division, yeah, probably. Just because of that conference.
Well, how about their coach and quarterback play?
Their coach is mainly their coach is the main issue. The quarterback play is always an interesting question with the Chargers, isn't it? Because Justin Herbert is possibly one of the, like, you look at Justin Herbert and you go, yeah, that's what a quarterback looks like. Like, if you were to draw a quarterback, you'd come up with something similar to Justin Herbert, right? Like, that's what the archetypal quarterback kind of looks like. And then to add to that, he's got, is it aeronautical engineering? He's got a like 4.5 GPA, which I understand to be very, very high. We don't do things that way, but
Put it this
4.2
way.
GPA.
If you get straight A's in the US, it's a 4.0.
Right. Okay. So he has a 4.2. So he has straight A's plus like a bit extra. So yeah, a very smart guy. So you have all of that with Justin Herbert. So it's easier to blame it on the coach. But is Justin Herbert the problem in LA Chargers?
17 of 30, 259, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
That's another team where you can look at their wide receiver room and say, like, oof, what have they got really? Because it's Keenan Allen and then Josh Palmer after that. That's it. Without Mike Williams, that's what they've got.
Also, they look smart for not paying Austin Eckler now too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they really do. Because Joshua Kelly was their lead in terms of yards. Joshua Kelly got 75 yards off 7 carries. Austin Eckler got 45 off 14 carries. So yeah, they do look smart in that way. Look, Justin Herbert threw for 200, basically nearly 260 yards at an average of 8.6. It's the 2 interceptions for me there that are a real problem. But are we not giving the Chiefs defense enough credit? Are we so hardwired to say, oh yeah, the Chiefs don't have a good defense? Are we so hardwired for that we forget that they have one of the better defenses in the NFL so far this year?
Yeah, but the Chargers are what, 2 and 4?
Oh no, the Chargers are also garbage. But I don't know whether it's I don't know whether to call it Justin Herbert's fault. Now's the time to sack Brandon Staley, by the way. Now you have the perfect window, the perfect opportunity where you can almost throw away this season now and let the guy come in and just sort everything out how they want it sorted out and then make a fresh run at it next season. With this season is just like let's
I think
get
they'll
the
fire him
culture
at the end of the
implemented and
year.
that kind of stuff.
I don't think the Chiefs will fire him in mid-season, the Chargers.
Why would you not do that? What are the pros that you're
nothing
getting out
could
of
really
not
change.
sacking
Like, you
Brandon
got to
Staley?
keep the same offense. You got to keep the same defense. You can't change that offensive scheme in the middle of the season.
Okay, so say you sack Brandon Staley and promote Kellen Moore as the head coach for this year, so you can see how Kellen Moore does as a head coach for a year, and then make your decision at the end of this year.
And then you choose not to keep Kellen Moore, and now you can't keep him as an offensive coordinator because he's going to be like, fuck you, and leave.
Yeah, well, then Justin Herbert will also be going on to his, it would be his fourth offensive coordinator since coming into the league, which is pretty intense.
All right.
I'm just saying, if you know it's not working, then it's better to change things rather than just double down.
They have bad ownership too, though.
Yeah, the Chargers are a poorly run organization just as a whole. The Chiefs look like a well put together team without the pizzazz that we're used to of a Mahomes Chiefs. And Travis Kelce is fucking amazing, and him and Mahomes have some psychic powers together. Is all I can say is that they're attached by some sort of another being. You know.
I got a question, Maddie. Is the Philly defense back? Because we're going to talk some Miami, Philadelphia right now.
It pains me to say, but probably, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few calls in that game where the secondary should have been burnt a lot. The Philly secondary should have been burnt a lot harder than it was. But they don't actually have a man. The one that's particularly come to my mind is a face mask penalty, but then the next play was in pick 6.
You do know
from
that the
Jalen
Eagles
Hurts.
had 0 penalties called on them the whole game, which is crazy to me.
They gave away. There are penalties in that game. Like you go
right. That's the problem, is that they had 0 penalties called.
Yeah, there were fucking penalties in that game. Like, look, I'm not the best person to talk about the Eagles. I'm not doing a particularly good job of being unbiased on them, to be honest, this year. They seem to be getting on my. In the UK, we say the term getting on my tits. Is that a saying in the States?
I'm guessing it's the same thing as they're getting on my nerves.
They're getting on your nerves. Yeah, they're getting on your nerves. They're getting on my tits like a lot more this year than they have been in previous years. So I'm not the best person to talk about them. However, Jalen Carter is a fucking machine, an absolute monster. And if you can slow down that Miami run game, that then takes away a lot from their pass game as well. Jalen Waddle isn't yet back to full fitness either. And if you can't unleash Tyreek because you're able to sit back in too deep, you're able to sit back in too deep coverage because you're not having to come up to play the run because you have Jalen Carter destroying the middle of the offense, then you're able to take down the Miami Dolphins. And I think that's what happened rather than they're fully back. I also think that there was a lot of penalties that weren't given in that game.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. If you look at the penalty lines, I see why the Dolphins fans are pissed off right now. Like it is kind of crazy that 0 penalties got called on them, and they were far from playing a perfect game.
It's like, let the boys play. I'm all about it. Awesome. But if you're going to do that, you have to that has to be blanket across everything, because where the Dolphins were getting penalized was more in the trenches. They did get a few PI calls, which definitely weren't going the other way. Again, fully admit my bias. So if you feel a different way, just know I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm obviously going to feel that the Eagles are getting a fairer cop from the refs. So you can tell me that I'm a dickhead in the comments. That's totally fine. But there were a lot of penalties that the Eagles were getting from the refs that the Dolphins weren't getting in return. And I'll leave it at that. But the Eagles were also a better team all the way through the game. The game plan dominated the Dolphins. They were a better team, and the Dolphins didn't come to play. It's a worry about the Dolphins that against good teams and big teams, they seem to choke and not able to play their style of football. Is that a worry for the Dolphins going forward?
I don't know, because I knew I figured the Dolphins would be good this year. I never thought they'd be the Super Bowl team in the AFC.
Yeah, how do they? When you look at their team on paper and you look at what they've been able to do, why? Because I totally agree with you, but I feel like we're not giving them that Super Bowl caliber team basically just on vibes. Like,
well,
as a
for
team.
me, it's because to win in the playoffs, you have to be able to run the ball, play defense, and hit big plays. And that's just not who they are.
They can run the ball very, very well. But as soon as they come up against a team of run stuffers, so massive up, their O-line is a problem in Miami. So as soon as they come up against like the Eagles, where you have D tackles who are over 350 pounds sat in the middle, so you can't run the ball at all, because they always run the ball to the outside, the Dolphins, but the Eagles were able to stop that, and then they really couldn't get up the middle. So if you take away the run game, then their offense just stutters. And a lot of the teams that they'll be playing against in the playoffs are able to stop run games.
All right, well, let's talk about the Thursday night game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading to the Buffalo Bills. The Bucs are 8.5-point dogs in this game, and they think it's going to be a rout because it's only an over-under of 43.
Yeah, again, what of the Vegas interests me, because what have the Bills shown to say that they're able to do that? Because against the Giants, they didn't cover the spread. Against the against the Giants, they didn't cover the spread. Against the who the fuck did we just talk about them playing? The Patriots, they didn't cover the spread. So why are we giving them, what was it, an 9 point spread?
8.5.
8.5. That seems like a lot to me. Again, the Bucks with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, like they have an offense that can go against anybody. Arguably, Baker Mayfield has better weapons than Josh Allen does. I mean, Stephon Diggs is better than all of them, but when you have Evans and you have Godwin, then you have a multitude of weapons. So Bills are going to win, probably. Not confident in it, but Bills to win, but the Bucks to be within 8.5.
I hope I don't regret this, but give me the Bills minus the 8.5.
Yeah, do you just not have confidence in the Bucks that?
It's just because when I watch the Bills play primarily Tampa 2 defense, Josh Allen picks them apart because there's holes in that Tampa 2. And that's really what it boils down for me is that offense versus a Tampa 2 defense.
Yeah. If they can find holes, look, if Stephon Diggs is able to just run about, which in Tampa 2,
that's where Davis is his best too.
Yeah. Like in Tampa 2, they look good against them. However, I look at this Bills defense and the amount of injuries, and I look at the talent on the Bucks offensive side of the ball, and I do think that the Bucks are going to be able to move the ball. So give me the over on the 40 points as well. I'll take the over on that. Because I think the Bucks are going to be able to move the ball against this Bills defense. Saying that, they just played against the Falcons and only put up 16 points. So maybe not, but I have no confidence in the Bills in games where they're giving big spreads right now.
All right. And then just off of a random question off of another game, what are your thoughts on the Packers so far this year? Because to me, they've been a really hard one to judge. And I thought they were going to be better, and then they just get beat by the Broncos, and Jordan Love looked bad.
I think Jordan Love is clearly not the answer in Green Bay. Like, Jordan Love has been given all of the answers to the test. He's been, before his real debut, which is kind of now, before he's really been playing games, he's been able to sit for 3 years, analyze the offense. They finally got some wide receiver weapons. They've been injured this year at points, yes, so a bit harsh maybe, but he's been given all the answers to the test and is still failing. So he had a much higher floor starting point than other quarterbacks that come in with him, that coming in to start their first games. So when he looks kind of good, it's like, yeah, he fucking should look good. He's just sat in this offense learning it for 3 years. He should look good. This is how he should look. And then the times where he looks terrible and loses against the Broncos, then you're like, oh, okay. Like, his one good game was when they came back against the Saints in the fourth quarter. What were they, 18 points behind in just a game where the Saints made so many mistakes. Yeah, exactly. Derek Carr doesn't get hurt. The Saints make so many mistakes in that fourth quarter that it's like, oh, okay, we'll give Jordan Love that. So he's not the answer in Green Bay.
We'll talk about this on Sunday, but when the spreads came out on Tuesday, the Packers were favored by 1 over the Vikings, but now it's moved to where the Vikings are favored by 1 over the Packers. We'll get to that on Sunday, but it's crazy.
If you put a bet down at that time, then you did a fucking great job. Well done. You know, that's where we're at. If I saw that I don't really gamble because it just makes it makes the games far less enjoyable to me because I'm just thinking about the money that I might be losing the entire time. It takes away like the fun of the game and turns it into more of a job for me if I gamble on stuff. Because I don't have enough surplus income to be fucking playing around with it.
It's the only gambling we do when we go to Vegas is I sports bet. That's it.
Yeah. But I can't do it. But if I saw that the Vikings were a dog against the Packers, I don't care by what fucking number. I'm putting like a decent amount of money on that game. Now that I've missed it, it doesn't matter.
Right. So we'll have a lot more coming up on Sunday. We'll break down all the games and the point spreads, but um, they've been picking some Thursday night games that haven't had me the most excited lately.
Why do they hate Amazon? It's since Amazon took over. What does the
Well,
NFL
it
have
was even
against
before
Amazon?
that. They hate Thursday night football for some reason, right? Because I'm looking. Let me look through. You got Eagles Commanders, which is actually a rivalry game you could have put on there. Um,
Yeah.
More people would rather watch the Rams and the Cowboys than that game. Why not both rookie quarterbacks, the Texans and the Panthers, versus each other over that game? I just don't get the idea of why that was the game you pick.
Yeah, the number 1 overall pick versus the was CJ Stroud the number 2 overall pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Number 2 overall pick versus the number 1 overall pick is an intriguing game. You're right. The Chiefs Broncos, that's a rivalry game. The Bengals 49ers with Joe Burrow coming back in. I mean, the 49ers just played Monday night, so you can't really
How
do
about
that to
Brown
them. But
Seahawks?
yeah, Browns Seahawks. There are lots of games that I'd rather be watching this week. The 2 New York teams, the New York rivalry, Jets against Giants. That would be one. Where if you want to give, so if you're intent with having terrible games of football on Monday Night Football, but you could at least give us some storylines, you pick the Jets Giants, don't you?
Yeah, I don't understand the choices that they make sometimes, and they
Yeah,
make them at the
Patriots
beginning.
Dolphins, that's a rivalry.
Yeah, they make them at the beginning of the season, and everybody thought the Bucks were going to be horrible with Baker Mayfield anyway. So why would you pick that game at the beginning? I don't know. If I'm Amazon and I'm giving up $11 billion, I'm a little upset.
There's no point in the preseason or at any point in this season that I have ever wanted to watch the Bills against the Bucks, apart from like if it's the only thing on.
Yeah, unless that's the Super Bowl, I'm really not really intrigued on that game.
Yeah, there's not really much to sell that game to me at all. Like they're not in the same conference. They have no historic rivalry. That the two franchises couldn't be more fucking different just in the way that everything goes. And it's just like, oh, awesome, great, glad this is on. When you have rivalries left, right, and center.
Well, before we get out of here, Maddie, quick early thoughts on your Cowboys at the Rams. What you're excited or worried about?
I'm worried that the Cowboys are just the Cowboys. No. Obviously you're worried about the fact that the Rams seem to have cloned Cooper Kupp into a bigger Samoan version of Cooper Kupp. That's a big worry where you have Cooper Kupp, Samoan Cooper Kupp, and Tutu Atwell as the wide receiver room. Pretty worrying. What I'm excited about is to see our defense after some good rest being able to go back at it again. And see, are you, yeah, it's in Arlington as well. It's in the AT&T Stadium. So they've got turf underneath their feet that they can actually run on because they don't seem to be able to run on grass. So it's good that it'll be good to see the defense coming back. I think that's a really potentially interesting battle of can Stafford get the ball out before the Cowboys defensive line gets to him, because the Rams offensive line, although better than expected, still has the propensity to just fall apart on a game-to-game basis. I'm also excited to see Dak Prescott kind of building into maybe a more risky game plan. Mike McCarthy maybe loosening the reins on the offense a little bit, because the Rams are a good enough team where we can't just say, right, our defense is going to win us this game, so let's loosen the reins a little bit and see if Dak can kind of see if we can open up some offense that way. And I'm also excited that Dak has now decided he's going to run again, because that means we have an extra red zone threat, which is good.
No, that's when your guys are most dangerous and when Dak's using his athletic ability. But All right, guys, we'll be back Sunday with more. I want to leave you guys with one note before we get out of here. Kirk Cousins, 8 for 8 on throws over 20 yards. So just write that down in your back of your brain when you go to shit on my guy.
I loved Justin Jefferson's chain for him in the post-game interview.
Yeah,
top 10.
Me too.
Top 10, definitely. Easily top 10, maybe even top 5.
Yeah, Peyton Manning even said it on Monday during his interviews that Kirk's one of the best quarterbacks in football. And when you hear Peyton Manning say it and people still want to argue it, it's like, you know more than Peyton Manning? Okay.
It's one of those games where if you switch the quarterbacks, the results would have been vastly different for the game. So then you go, all right, okay, yeah, Kirk Cousins is obviously an excellent quarterback, because if he was playing for the 49ers and Purdy was playing for the Vikings, you've got to feel like maybe it's a blowout the other way around.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe if you already haven't. Go over to Instagram and Rumble. Follow us. And if you missed it, because this airs on Thursday, go back. Power Slap 5 happens Wednesday night with Ryan Phillips, the King of King, who's a friend of mine. So I want you to make sure you go over there and support the King of Kings, Ryan Phillips, on Power Slap.
I've been watching some Power Slap just because we cover it, so I thought it would be my due diligence to watch it. It's a fucking funny thing to watch, isn't it? Just watching grown men slap each other in the face really hard.
I never thought I'd like it, and I got so into it, bro, because I know 4 people in Power Slap personally, so it got me very excited.
Yeah, when I say it's funny, I don't mean like, oh, ha ha ha, how funny is it watching these grown men slap each other around? It's just like, fucking, like, how mental have you got to be just to stand there and just take us, because the slaps are with the force of like what most of us can punch with. So it's basically like taking a straight punch to the jaw and just standing there and taking it. It's like, fucking fair play to you. So yeah, go watch our stuff about Power Slap. It's good fun.
All right. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.
All right. Well, this thing don't like me, so there's no ending today, guys.
No ending. We're out.